obviously it'd be, I would love to have met her, and she's obviously, she's an inspirational woman to look up to.
She thought the crown secured her place, until one quiet move changed everything. When Catherine, Princess of Wales, was handed a royal title long expected to go to Queen Camilla, palace doors slammed, meetings were cancelled, and insiders say Camilla's fury was so intense, aides had to leave the room.
I think, everyone who I work with, I think, can see that I'm there pulling my weight, and that's really what matters to me.
What sparked this explosive reaction? And why is the monarchy now quietly shifting its power toward Catherine? When Catherine, Princess of Wales, was quietly appointed Colonel-in-Chief of the Grenadier Guards, the reaction wasn't what you'd typically expect from a royal announcement. There were no major headlines at first, no official photo releases, and definitely no formal speeches. Instead, the update appeared almost like a footnote in the court circular, the royal family's official record. But within hours, the understated line had caught the attention of royal watchers and the press alike. It was clear that this wasn't just another ceremonial adjustment. This move, though subtle in presentation, held much deeper significance. The position of Colonel-in-Chief of the Grenadier Guards is not a minor role. It has a long history and carries symbolic weight within both the monarchy and the British military. The role had been held by Prince Philip for nearly 7 decades, and after his passing, many expected Queen Camilla to be the natural choice to take on the title. After all, she is the Queen Consort and the wife of the reigning monarch, King Charles III. By traditional royal standards, that would have placed her first in line for such a prestigious military association. Instead, the position went to Catherine. And while the announcement didn't come with a press conference or a wave of fanfare, the implications were instantly clear to those who understand the structure and symbolism behind royal appointments. Catherine wasn't just being honored, she was being elevated. The palace, intentionally or not, had sent a strong message about who it views as the future face of the monarchy. Inside the palace walls, reports suggest the reaction was more dramatic than the public would ever know. According to multiple unnamed aides cited in British tabloids and royal commentary circles, Camilla was said to be surprised, even caught off guard. One palace insider reportedly said that her response was sharp and emotional, and that senior aides present at the time had to leave the room. Though none of these accounts can be confirmed on record, the intensity of the reported reaction suggests just how meaningful the title was. For King Charles, the decision appeared to come after some careful consideration. Sources with knowledge of the matter suggest that senior advisors, military officials, and the king himself were involved in the final call. They reportedly looked at more than just protocol. Public opinion, media perception, and the personal reputations of both women were all factored in. Ultimately, Catherine was chosen, not simply because of her rank as the Princess of Wales, but because of her consistent public image, growing popularity, and genuine connection with the people. That choice, however, wasn't without tension. Behind the scenes, there was a sense that this appointment shifted more than ceremonial duties. It reflected a subtle but noticeable shift in royal priorities. Over the years, the British royal family has increasingly had to balance tradition with modern relevance. Public trust, once a given, now has to be earned and maintained. In that landscape, figures like Catherine, who is seen as steady, respectful of tradition, and free of scandal, hold considerable value. Camilla's path to becoming Queen Consort has never been simple. For decades, she was at the center of one of the most talked about chapters in royal history, her relationship with Charles while he was still married to Princess Diana. While much has changed since those days, and she has taken on her royal role with increasing confidence, the public perception has never fully shifted. Even after her marriage to Charles in 2005 and her eventual designation as Queen Consort, public support has remained mixed. By contrast, Catherine's image has grown steadily over time. From the early days of her relationship with Prince William to her current role as mother of 3, advocate for children's causes, and key royal figure, she has managed to build a reputation for being approachable, respectful, and professional. In public events, she's known for her calm demeanor and attention to detail. She's rarely made headlines for the wrong reasons, a rarity in royal circles these days. That contrast between the two women is not just about style. It's about what each one represents to the British public and to the future of the monarchy. Camilla symbolizes endurance, having weathered decades of criticism and slowly gained a place within the institution. Catherine, on the other hand, represents renewal. She's a modern royal who respects the crown's traditions, but brings with her a sense of stability and relatability that appeals to both older and younger generations. The decision to appoint Catherine to the Grenadier Guards role, therefore, seems to go beyond simple hierarchy. It's also about optics. It signals where the royal family sees its future. And while the palace did not make any formal statement explaining the reasoning behind the appointment, the context speaks for itself. The armed forces, particularly the Grenadier Guards, are deeply tied to national identity. Giving this role to Catherine puts her in a position that's not only prestigious, but also steeped in tradition and meaning. The reaction from the press was swift. Royal correspondents quickly picked up on the significance of the move. Headlines in both British and international media framed the appointment as a shift in royal favor. While some maintained a neutral tone, others leaned into the drama, highlighting reported tensions between Catherine and Camilla. It's important to note that many of these reports are based on anonymous sources, and palace spokespeople did not comment on the matter, as is customary. Social media, however, painted a clearer picture. The news of Catherine's appointment was met with widespread praise from users who have long admired her conduct and contribution to the royal family. Hashtags in support of her started trending, and many online commentators saw the move as a long-overdue recognition of her role. Meanwhile, Camilla's name was noticeably absent from much of the positive discourse, with some posts openly comparing the two women. Whether or not Camilla truly reacted with anger or disappointment is ultimately unknown. What is clear, though, is that the decision didn't go unnoticed. Within royal circles, these appointments are carefully tracked. They often serve as a signal of who's rising in influence and who might be stepping back. And in this case, Catherine's rise seemed especially pointed. It wasn't just about military representation. It was about trust, public trust, institutional trust, and the monarchy's sense of its own future. The understated way the announcement was made also fits with Catherine's approach to her role. She's never been one for overt statements or grand gestures. Instead, she's built her public image slowly and carefully. And the palace, it seems, respects that approach. The lack of ceremony around the title handover only emphasized the seriousness of the move. It wasn't for show, it was strategic. Camilla's journey into the royal spotlight has been, from the beginning, anything but smooth. For decades, her name was synonymous with controversy due to her long-standing relationship with King Charles III, one that began while he was still married to Princess Diana. That period left a lasting mark on how the public viewed her. To many, she was seen not as a romantic partner, but as the other woman, whose presence complicated the fairy tale image people had of Charles and Diana. Even though Charles and Diana divorced, and Camilla eventually married Charles in 2005, public perception remained mixed, and acceptance came slowly. Camilla chose to stay out of the spotlight for much of the early years following her marriage. While she did take on some royal duties and charity work, her visibility remained limited compared to other senior royals. According to several royal historians and commentators, this was part of a deliberate strategy to avoid inflaming public opinion. She avoided big ceremonial roles and kept a low profile, gradually building a presence that was quieter and more subdued. Over time, some of the public resentment faded, but it never completely disappeared. Even when Queen Elizabeth II publicly supported Camilla's future role as queen consort, the public's response was divided. In contrast, Catherine's entrance into royal life was carefully managed and strategically paced. She began dating Prince William while they were both at university, and their relationship unfolded over several years in a relatively private setting. The press followed their story closely, but Catherine remained cautious and avoided public missteps. By the time she and William got engaged, she had already built a foundation of familiarity with the British public. Unlike Camilla, Catherine did not come from aristocracy or wealth. Her family background was middle class, which made her more relatable to everyday people. And although she wasn't born into royalty, she dedicated years to understanding it. After marrying Prince William in 2011, Catherine took her role seriously. She immersed herself in royal responsibilities, charity work, and the protocol that came with her new status. Her approach was quiet but consistent. She didn't chase headlines. Instead, she earned trust through action, supporting causes like mental health awareness, early childhood development, and addiction recovery. Catherine made appearances at hospitals, military bases, and community centers. And importantly, she did so without controversy. While other members of the royal family sometimes found themselves at the center of media storms, Catherine remained steady, rarely speaking out of turn or showing signs of discontent with royal life. That difference in trajectory is part of why the public sees the two women so differently. Camilla's past still shadows her in many ways, while Catherine is seen as a symbol of stability. In polling data over recent years, Catherine has consistently ranked among the most popular members of the royal family, often just behind Queen Elizabeth II and Prince William. Camilla, on the other hand, has struggled to gain similar support. While her approval has improved over time, it has never reached the same level of admiration. This contrast plays into more than just popularity. It also affects how the monarchy positions its senior women. Public support matters now more than ever. With debates around the relevance of the royal family in the 21st century, those at the heart of the institution need to appear both grounded in tradition and open to modern values. Catherine fits that mold well. She embodies royal customs while also reflecting the expectations of a modern public. Camilla, meanwhile, often represents a different era, one that many in the royal institution are trying to quietly move beyond. Her presence is tied to a chapter in royal history that was marked by scandal and division. Even as queen consort, she sometimes appears to be working against that history rather than stepping out of its shadow. This difference creates a subtle but noticeable divide between the two women, not necessarily in their personal relationship, which remains private, but in how the public and the palace seem to view their roles. Royal insiders have occasionally hinted at an underlying tension. While no open conflict has been confirmed, commentators have noted that the two women have rarely been seen together at joint engagements. When they do appear at the same event, their interactions are formal but not especially warm. It's possible this is simply due to protocol or personality differences, but it's also likely that the contrast in their public images has contributed to a quiet rivalry. That rivalry, if it exists, is rarely visible. Neither woman has made any public statements about the other, and both continue to perform their roles with professionalism. Still, moments like Catherine's recent appointment to the Grenadier Guards bring that unspoken comparison back into focus. It wasn't just that she was given a prestigious military role, it was that she was chosen over Camilla, the queen consort, who by tradition might have expected to receive such a title. This kind of decision reflects a broader shift within the royal family. Traditionally, titles and responsibilities followed a rigid hierarchy. Seniority was the main factor, and positions were usually passed down based on status. But in this case, that pattern was broken. Instead of awarding the role based purely on position, the palace appears to have considered merit, public opinion, and symbolic meaning. Catherine's growing approval among the British people likely played a major role in that decision. The symbolism is powerful. By choosing Catherine for a role so closely tied to British history and military tradition, the palace signaled that she is not just a figure of the present, but of the future. It also sent a quieter message that popularity and public trust may now carry as much weight as royal rank. This kind of shift would have been unthinkable in earlier decades, but today, the monarchy is being reshaped by public expectations and media influence. Camilla's reaction, if reported accounts are accurate, was one of disappointment. It would be understandable. For someone who has spent years working to be accepted into the highest levels of the royal family, being overlooked in favor of a younger royal might feel like a step backward. Especially given the fact that the Grenadier Guards position was previously associated with Prince Philip, a role of considerable symbolic value, Camilla may have felt it was her time to take on a similar legacy. Instead, that legacy was passed to Catherine. Still, it's worth noting that both women continue to represent different strengths within the royal family. Camilla brings experience, resilience, and a long-standing connection to King Charles. Catherine brings energy, relatability, and a modern touch that appeals to a broad audience. The royal family, in its current form, may find it needs both women for different reasons. But as the monarchy looks to the future, it's becoming increasingly clear who the public sees as its central figure. Not necessarily the one with the highest title, but the one who reflects the values people want to see. Catherine, through years of careful conduct, has become that person for many. And while her appointment to the Grenadier Guards may seem like just another royal duty, it speaks volumes about how she is viewed within the palace and by the public. The Grenadier Guards are one of the oldest and most prestigious regiments in the British Army. Their history goes back centuries, and their role within the monarchy is significant. For almost 70 years, the position of Colonel-in-Chief was held by Prince Philip, the late Duke of Edinburgh, who was deeply involved with military affairs throughout his life. After his death, the role remained vacant for some time, but speculation quickly built about who would take it on next. Given royal protocol, the assumption was that Queen Camilla would step into the position. As the Queen Consort and wife of the reigning monarch, she had already begun assuming new responsibilities and ceremonial roles within the royal framework. Many believed this appointment would be part of that transition. It would have been a fitting way to acknowledge her position within the firm while honoring her growing list of duties. However, that's not what happened. In a closed-door meeting reportedly involving King Charles, senior palace advisors, and high-ranking military officials, a different decision was made. Catherine, not Camilla, would be the one to take over the role. According to palace insiders, the conversation behind the scenes was not only about tradition or hierarchy, it was about optics, public sentiment, and long-term strategy. The decision was described by one source as deliberate, precise, and not without internal friction. Camilla, who had already begun planning for the role, including preparing for uniform fittings and scheduling future appearances, was reportedly informed of the change in a brief and formal phone call. Her reaction, according to unnamed palace staff, was subdued on the surface, but deeply frustrated beneath it. What made the move so impactful wasn't just who got the title, it was what the choice represented. By selecting Catherine, the palace demonstrated a willingness to break from convention and reward merit over seniority. Catherine's steady rise within the royal family has not been based on a high birth or dramatic gestures. Instead, she has built her role gradually, gaining trust through public appearances, charity work, and a reputation for consistency and professionalism. This trust now appears to be translating into influence. Members of the military, who have long respected her dedication to veterans and service personnel, reportedly supported the idea. Her regular attendance at remembrance events, involvement with military families, and genuine interest in the armed forces made her a fitting and respected figure to take on the position. For Camilla, the loss of this role is more than a missed opportunity. It represents a shift in how her position is perceived within the institution. While she holds the title of Queen Consort, the decision suggests that some of the most symbolic and influential roles within the royal family may no longer be automatically assigned based on title alone. Instead, they may go to those who have earned public confidence and represent the future direction of the monarchy. This changing dynamic isn't necessarily new, but the Grenadier Guards appointment made it official in a way that couldn't be ignored. Historically, the royal family has operated on a structure rooted in tradition, where roles and responsibilities were passed along based on rank and protocol. The recent decision marked a deviation from that system, one shaped by the realities of a 21st century monarchy facing increased scrutiny and the need for public approval. Inside the palace, reactions reportedly varied. While some aides and courtiers saw the move as a logical step forward, others viewed it as a disruption to long-standing customs. According to sources close to the palace, Queen Camilla was particularly unsettled. She had hoped that the years of criticism, public resistance, and difficult headlines were behind her. Taking on a position held by Prince Philip would have been a symbolic milestone, one that further cemented her place in royal life. Instead, it was a reminder that acceptance does not always equal influence. In the days that followed the announcement, the contrast between the two women only became more visible. Catherine, as always, kept her public comments minimal. When asked about her new role during a public appearance, she simply acknowledged the question and moved on. There were no grand statements or personal reflections. But those who understand royal body language noted that she appeared confident and comfortable, at ease with the responsibility she had just taken on. Camilla, meanwhile, reportedly canceled 2 scheduled meetings and appeared withdrawn in subsequent engagements. According to a palace aide who spoke to a major British newspaper, she described the moment she was informed as chilling and unexpected. Though the palace did not confirm these claims, the reports fed into a growing narrative that tensions between the Queen Consort and the Princess of Wales were quietly escalating. In media circles, the story was framed as a symbolic shift in royal power. Headlines didn't accuse or speculate wildly, but they did point to the implications. By giving the role to Catherine, the palace had signaled a change in direction. The focus was no longer solely on lineage and seniority. It was about perception, consistency, and public favor. The military itself responded positively. A number of military figures praised the appointment, noting Catherine's previous work with the armed forces and her dedication to remembrance and support programs. One former officer, interviewed by a major broadcaster, said it was clear that she genuinely understands what this role represents. That kind of endorsement carries weight. It underscores that this was more than a symbolic gesture. It was a recognition of real, earned credibility. Meanwhile, social media lit up in support of Catherine. Hashtags related to her new role trended online, with users posting old photos of her attending military events or speaking to veterans. The tone was overwhelmingly positive, reinforcing the idea that this appointment reflected the will of the people, not just palace insiders. Camilla's image, already complicated, faced fresh scrutiny. Some commentators speculated that the Queen Consort might step back from additional public roles in the coming months, though nothing official has been announced. Whether she chooses to reduce her schedule or not, the message has already been received by the public. The Princess of Wales is now being viewed as a central figure in the future of the monarchy. This moment also revealed something important about how the royal family now manages its image. In previous generations, roles like these were handed out quietly, often behind closed doors, and largely based on internal family politics. Today, every title, appointment, and public gesture is closely examined, interpreted, and discussed by a global audience. The royal household is keenly aware of this. Every move is strategic. By giving Catherine a title so closely tied to legacy, tradition, and national pride, the palace has taken a clear stance. It shows confidence in her ability to represent the institution, not just now, but for decades to come. It also reflects a broader commitment to modernizing the monarchy, not in flashy, dramatic ways, but in thoughtful, deliberate shifts like this one. Ultimately, the decision to appoint Catherine as Colonel-in-Chief of the Grenadier Guards wasn't just about rewarding past performance. It was about shaping the royal family's image for the future. It was a recognition that quiet leadership, consistency, and earned respect matter more than ever. And in making that choice, the palace sent a message that echoed far beyond the walls of any military barracks or royal estate. What stood out most in the days and weeks that followed was Catherine's silence. She made no public remarks about receiving the role, nor did she allow the media narrative to shift toward personal victory or drama. When asked about her new position during a royal engagement, her response was brief, polite, and entirely on brand. acknowledging the moment without dwelling on it. For those familiar with her approach, this wasn't surprising. Catherine has always been careful with her words and deliberate with her actions. She understands that in royal life, presence often speaks louder than commentary. According to people close to the palace, this moment had been years in the making. Catherine didn't just walk into her royal role overnight. From the moment she became engaged to Prince William, she quietly began studying the institution she was preparing to join. Reports have emerged suggesting that she sought guidance not only from royal advisors, but also from historians and former aides to better understand what it truly meant to represent the crown. She took her time, kept a low profile when needed, and built her public image gradually. Over the years, her work has included championing causes like mental health, early childhood education, and support for addiction recovery. These weren't flashy campaigns. They were carefully chosen efforts that allowed her to build real credibility and demonstrate her commitment to public service. Whether visiting a hospital or attending a military remembrance ceremony, she has been consistent, composed, and focused. This consistency, perhaps more than anything else, has earned her the trust of the British public. Within the palace, aides reportedly refer to her privately as the quiet queen in waiting, a nod to both her current role and the widespread expectation that she will one day become queen consort. But increasingly, many observers believe she's already acting as a kind of de facto queen. While Camilla holds the official title, it is Catherine who seems to embody the forward-looking vision of the monarchy that both the institution and the public are beginning to favor. This isn't about rivalry or personal ambition. Those who know Catherine say she has never chased status or position. Instead, her strength lies in her patience, discipline, and understanding of the long game. She has chosen to represent the crown not with loud declarations or performative gestures, but through quiet, steady service. And this has not gone unnoticed by the public or by those working behind palace walls. According to royal insiders, Queen Elizabeth II had a soft spot for Catherine. While the late Queen never spoke publicly about such matters, one former aide claimed that Elizabeth once described Catherine as someone who reminded her of herself, not in personality, but in poise and restraint. It's the kind of comment that speaks volumes in royal circles, where praise is rarely given lightly. And it's the sort of quiet endorsement that seems to have echoed through the decision-making process around Catherine's new title. For Queen Camilla, however, this quiet rise has brought its own challenges. While she holds a formal place beside King Charles, her journey to that position has been shaped by controversy and ongoing debate about her public role. Despite taking on more duties and becoming increasingly visible in recent years, she has struggled to achieve the same level of public warmth that Catherine seems to inspire naturally. Reports from within the palace suggest that Camilla was deeply disappointed by the decision to pass the Grenadier Guards role to Catherine. For someone who has worked hard to be seen as a full member of the royal family, it felt like a step back. One source close to the matter described Camilla's reaction as deeply personal. She wasn't just reacting to the loss of a ceremonial title, but to what it represented, a subtle shift in who the monarchy sees as its most important public face. In private conversations, she reportedly expressed concern that the palace was already beginning to shape the narrative for the next generation, and that her own role might be shrinking faster than she expected. Whether or not those fears are grounded in actual planning is unclear, but the sense of transition is certainly real. Even King Charles has reportedly found himself in a delicate position. For decades, he worked tirelessly to rehabilitate Camilla's image in the public eye, standing by her through criticism and controversy. But now, as monarch, he faces the challenge of balancing personal loyalty with the broader needs of the institution. And as recent polling shows, public support is firmly behind Catherine. Her appointment to such a meaningful military role and the enthusiastic response it received makes it difficult for the palace to ignore her growing influence. Meanwhile, the younger royals, including Prince William, appear to be stepping into their future roles with increasing confidence. During Catherine's first appearance in her new title, William stood by her side, helping her adjust a ceremonial sash during a military event. It was a small moment, but one that carried weight. It symbolized a royal couple not just united in marriage, but in purpose. Together, they represent the monarchy's future, and their partnership has become a model of stability and shared responsibility. Within the royal family, responses have varied. Princess Anne, known for her traditional approach to royal duty, was reportedly less impressed with the attention surrounding the appointment. Some insiders suggested she viewed the media coverage as distracting from the work itself. However, others, like Prince Edward and his wife Sophie, were said to quietly support Catherine's new role, seeing it as a necessary part of the monarchy's evolution. In fact, behind closed doors, there have been whispers of a broader restructure. Sources close to the royal household suggest that King Charles has begun exploring plans to gradually shift key responsibilities toward younger members of the family, especially William and Catherine. This includes patronages, ceremonial duties, and high-profile engagements. If true, it would reflect a conscious move toward preparing the next generation of royals to take on more leadership within the institution. Camilla, by contrast, may be finding herself increasingly on the outside of these changes. While she remains a central figure for now, the momentum appears to be moving elsewhere. Her concerns, reportedly shared with close friends, reflect a growing sense that she is being edged out, not with hostility, but with a gentle, deliberate change in tone. For someone who spent decades earning her place, the idea of fading into the background, just as she reached the top, must be difficult to accept. Yet for Catherine, this moment is not about personal gain. According to those who know her, she sees her role as one of duty, not ambition. Her focus has always been on serving the public, supporting the monarchy, and setting an example of integrity and discipline. That commitment has earned her something that no title can guarantee: the trust of the people. And now, with her appointment to one of the most symbolically important military roles in the royal household, that trust has been publicly validated. It confirms what many had already suspected: that Catherine is not just a supportive royal figure, but a central one. She is, in many ways, already fulfilling the role of queen, even if not in name. Her influence is quiet, but it is steady. And in the ever-changing landscape of the modern monarchy, that kind of leadership may be more valuable than ever. The crown may still rest on King Charles's head, and the title of Queen Consort may still belong to Camilla. But in the eyes of many, it is Catherine who now carries the future of the royal family. Not through dramatic gestures or political maneuvering, but through grace, consistency, and an unwavering sense of responsibility. In a world where public trust is fragile, she has become the monarchy's most dependable figure, and perhaps its strongest asset. The palace hasn't needed to say much. They let the appointment speak for itself. And for the millions watching around the world, the message was clear. Catherine is no longer just preparing for her future role. She is already living it.